All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down UFC Jacksonville. Anybody watching now live, thank you so much for tuning in. I know the Ultimate Fighter's on. I know Uncle Weezy's live. Unfortunately, this was the only time that worked for me today. So anybody watching now, thank you so much. Anyone watching this back later, thank you as well. Daz over here, thanks for tuning in, brother. 200 subs off the mythical 1K. We are at about almost 800 subs. I think it's like 793. So if you're not already subscribed, you like my stuff, please subscribe, like the videos, comment, helps a ton. So we've got 14 fights to talk about. One of my favorite active fighters in the main event. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's hop right in. I don't have all that many bets yet, but I've got quite the list that I'm looking at. And we'll talk about it as we go. So for this first fight here, we've got Cody Brundage versus Sedriques Dumas. Brundage, he's 8-4-0, 29 years old, 6 feet tall at the 72-inch reach. And I've got Factory X for him. Dumas, he's 7-1-0. He's going to be 2 years younger, 2 inches taller, and have a 7-inch reach advantage here. So, look, I think there's some recency bias here to an extent. I don't think Cody Brundage should be minus 220 or whatever he is now. I think that's totally just recency bias. I understand what happened with Dumas and Fremd, but I think there's too much recency bias there. That said, I do think Brundage can win this fight. I think he's got a wrestling edge that he could really use here. He's actually a really good wrestler. He's got a good background in it. So I do think that's going to be super live for him. On the feet, I don't think he's going to have the best time. Dumas much longer. That reach, 7 inches, that's going to make a difference. And he does strike well at range. I do like how he's striking when I just think he strikes long well. He uses his weapons well, uses that frame well. All that said, again, he got taken down twice by Fremd. Didn't really seem to be giving up fighting it too much. And then in the high ball fight, he got taken down. He did reverse him. Look, I think Dumas is actually pretty decent. People are calling him a bum now and stuff. I disagree. I don't think he's a bum. But because I think Brundage has a very clear wrestling path here, and he's not the worst striker in the world. He's certainly improving, training over at Factory X. So I don't think he's going to be completely out of place on the feet. I just think he really should wrestle. So I got Brundage at minus 120 for a unit. Now I think we're getting a little bit out of hand, to be completely honest. I think he's minus 175 now. I think that's a bit too much. I am worried about him getting bonked a little bit. Daz over here. Wheezy in half an hour. I got the jump by 30 minutes. All right, that's good. Thank for support of no horns policy. Not sure what you mean there. Sadiq, 3 units. Hey, man, I agree with you that he is going to be hard to keep down. Really lanky frame. And I do think he's more live than the line suggests. At this point, if you told me to bet aside, it would probably be Dumas at plus 150. I just don't think you should be betting Brundage at minus 200, minus 175. Like I said, I do have him. I do think he wins, but there's a very big chance that he does get bonked. So I wouldn't go too crazy with him. All right. Next up, we're going to move on to one of the hottest prospects in flyweight, probably. We've got Tatsuro Taira versus Kleydson Rodrigues. Taira, 13-0. He's undefeated as a pro. 23 years old. He's 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. First camp, I'm going to have to go with Tapology, Paraistro, Kanawa. I can't place him based off of his Instagram. Rodrigues, 8-2-0. He's 27. He's going to be 4 years older here. 1 inch shorter, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. I've got him actually at Shootbox now, which I think is super interesting. And look, I got Rodrigues here at plus 280. I put a half unit on it. I really respect Taira. I think he's a fantastic prospect with a really high ceiling, and he's literally only 23 years old. He's going to be rapidly improving. But to make him a heavy favorite over Rodrigues, I don't think that's correct. Rodrigues, he's also got really good jiu-jitsu. He's not submitting guys like Taira is, but he does have that jiu-jitsu. He is at Shootbox now. So I don't really see him getting submitted here. And in the striking, I think it's Kleydson here by a margin, honestly. Maybe I'm going to be completely wrong. But to me, Taira's still a little bit green in the striking. I like that it's straight. He's not winging like crazy. And I do like his work in the clinch. But I think his striking is still a work in progress, whereas Kleydson Rodrigues already has very solid striking. So if he can keep this on the feet, I think he's going to win the fight. And on the ground, I think he has what it takes to scramble against Taira and be able to get back up. And I wouldn't be shocked if he got his own takedowns. We saw Candelario take down Taira twice. I think that Rodrigues does have good wrestling, and I do think he has the ability to take down Taira here. So getting him at plus 280, I had to take a shot. Let me see what he's at now. Plus 200. Line's coming down, depending where you're at. I think plus 200 is still playable. Like I said, I think he's very live here, and I think that the striking edge is going to be really, not really, but pretty noticeable. So give me Kleydson Rodrigues to upset Taira here and give him his first L. I know a lot of people are super high on Taira, might not like that, but it's just what I think. So we're going to move on. Next up, we've got Jamall Emmers versus Jack Jenkins. Emmers, he's 19-6-0, 33 years old. He's 5'10" with a 74-inch reach, and he's a team alpha male now. Jack Jenkins, he's 30. He's going to be 3 years younger, 3 inches shorter, and have a 6-inch reach disadvantage. Going to have to go with Tapology here, absolute MMA and conditioning. So this one's a tough one. I think Emmers is the side. I think Emmers is going to win. But the line, again, you're going to hear me saying this a ton because it's just the case here. The line's out of hand. Minus 210, I think it's a bit much here. I do think he wins, and I do have him on my list of possible parlay pieces. He makes a lot of mistakes. He can get a little overexcited, and his cardio is also a little bit concerning to me. I think Jenkins is going to have the better cardio. Jenkins, he fights a little bit more tight, a little cleaner, a little more safe, whereas Emmers, I actually really like his striking too. I think at range, he's really solid, really nice jab, and he's good at using that length, good at using that reach. So, and his wrestling. I think Emmers is a great wrestler. I do think he can get Jenkins down. Jenkins got taken down, I think, once by Sheamus, but I think Emmers is a much better wrestler than Don Sheamus and a much better fighter. And I just think that he can wrestle himself. I think he's going to defend takedowns from Jenkins. And as long as he doesn't get gassed in like round 2, round 3, like we've seen a few times now, I think he should be fine here and he should win this fight. Probably by decision. We'll see if I get to parlaying him. I have a gut feeling that it might not be the move. Like I was looking at him in the Cachero fight in round 2, and he just looked slow. It looked like he was really starting to feel the cardio going down, and he was getting hit quite a bit by Cachero. And I think Jenkins is a very crisp striker. I really like the body work. I think that's a good move against a guy like Emmers, who, like I said, can slow down. So I just wouldn't count out Jenkins. Emmers is going to be my pick, but we'll see if I can get to him at this price. I think it might be a bit much for a guy who does make mistakes and does have some questions with the cardio. And we're going to move on. This is going to be fun. All right. So for this one, we've got Trevor Peek versus Chepe Mariscal. Peek, 8-0, undefeated. He's 28 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. And let me check if I've got anything. I don't. We're going to go with Tapology, Powell's Martial Arts Concepts. Mariscal, 13-6-0, 2 years older. He's going to be 3 inches shorter. Same reach, just about. Training out of Elevation. Apparently, Mariscal has like a judo background. I don't know to what extent. And to be honest, from what I was hearing, I expected going into the tape to see like really, really good grappling from him. And I don't think that he's that amazing. And people are jumping on the bandwagon to back Mariscal. And I understand why, because Trevor Peek, I mean, watching him fight is just, it's so funny and it's so violent, but it's also so funny. Like the way he strikes, I mean, when he's trying to keep it straight and actually strike with technique, he seems to be able to do it. But then he just rushes in with these power strikes. And I mean, the standing hammer fists were, that was a sight to behold. And I mean, it worked against Eric Gonzalez, and it worked in the Malik Lewis fight. He was able to knock him out, but it's not going to last forever. I do think he's going to knock out Mariscal here. I don't think Mariscal is all that great. I think in the striking, I edge Peek. Maybe Mariscal is going to be a little bit more technical, but I just think Peek's going to overwhelm him. I think he's going to knock him out either in round 1 or round 2. You have to understand, like, yeah, Peek got wrestled by Malik Lewis, but Malik Lewis is huge. He's a big man. And I had him there. I thought that he looked great. And then, Peek found his bonk and bonked him. But Mariscal is not going to be bigger than Peek. He's actually smaller, and I don't see such good wrestling from him that I can expect him to just take down Peek and control him. And do I really think he's going to knock Peek out? Personally, no, I don't. I don't really think he's going to knock Peek out. He does have 6 knockout wins, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So I like Trevor Peek to win this fight. How I'm going to approach it, if I approach it at all, I'm not sure. It's about a pick 'em now. He's minus 110. Mariscal is also minus 110. I would kind of want plus money if I'm going to take Peek, just because he's like so freaking hittable. But I'll probably end up getting to him. I'm just going to wait and see. But I'll be looking at his KO props as well. Last time I saw it, I saw plus 130. It's a little too close to the money line. At that point, I would just play the money line, even though I do think he wins via bonk. But we'll have to see. Trevor Peek's definitely the pick here. Trevor Peek is definitely the pick here. And I'm not seeing it with Mariscal like a lot of people are. Let me catch up with the chat. Taira seems like that line just hyped. Kleydson the bet. I agree with you there. Lou saying, I bet Mike wearing a hat at minus 300. You know, when my hair's not too crazy, I don't really need it. Emmers seems more skilled, maybe not as tough. Yeah, Jack looks tough as nails. Bet Jack on grounds at 3 dogs in a row to start the card. Don't hate it. Let's see. Dad's saying he'll bet the overs here. That one's scary. And then Peek is like a Rock'em Sock'em, literally. Like, if you made a Rock'em Sock'em robot into a human being, it would be Trevor Peek. Like, it's so good. It's so funny, man. Like, if you haven't seen him fight, do yourself a favor and just turn on any of his fights. And it's so funny to watch. But dude is scary. The guy is scary. Moving on, though, we've got Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus Joshua Van. Zhumagulov 14-8-0. He's 34 years old, 5'4" with a 66.5-inch reach. And he's an American top team, if I'm not mistaken. Van 7-1-0. He's 21. He's going to be 13 years younger here. 1 inch taller, training at a 4-ounce fight club. And he is on short notice. Patty, 2 fights canceled in a row. I think it was supposed to be Rafael Estevam. Then it was Felipe Bunes. I was going to back both of those guys. And I was going to back them because I thought they could grapple with Zhalgas and also keep up with the striking. But in this matchup, I think I have to favor Zhalgas. So Joshua Van, he's pretty good. I had to go back. Didn't really remember him off memory, even though I do a bunch of regionals content. Just didn't really remember him, so I had to go back a bit. He's a good striker. He's got a boxing Oh my goodness, I'm tired today. He's got a boxing background, and he definitely looks crisp in the striking. He's going to throw the straighter strikes, and I have seen Zhalgas in situations with the striking that I didn't love. The Jerome Rivera fight, I believe that's his sole UFC win. He was getting outstruck by Jerome Rivera, and then he got that guillotine, but up until that point, he was getting outstruck. And then in the Molina fight, Kopp outstruck him, but Joshua Van's not Manel Kopp. And Charles Johnson, both those fights, arguably Zhalgas won. He's got really good output. He goes to the body really well, that I like. And he uses a lot of pressure, a lot of output. And the striking, if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably rate it like 6.5, 7. It's just a bit too loopy for me. Whereas Van, he's going to throw more straight, more down the pipe, and he's probably going to land quicker. I just think Zhalgas is going to land more. He's going to land more effectively. And if anyone's got grappling upside here, it's probably Zhalgas. We have seen Van wrestle in the regionals, but I don't see him taking down a guy like Zhalgas, who does have good takedown defense. Was a champion in the Russian regional scene. I believe it was Fight Night Global. Not I believe. I know it was Fight Night Global. And yeah, I just think he's more experienced. I think he's got, and everything else I said, I'm not going to repeat myself. I think that he's just going to be the better guy here. I think it's a little bit too much too soon for Van. But look, am I going to bet Zhalgas as a favorite at like minus 180? No, I'm not going to do that because sometimes with the judges, he just doesn't do enough. He should have won his debut against Paiva. He probably should have won against Molina and Charles Johnson, and the judges don't like what he's doing. I don't know why. But that said, I do think he's going to have enough to win this, and I think he's very hungry. The guy's been trying to get in the damn cage for months now. The fights keep falling apart. It's got to get in there already. And yeah, I think Zhalgas is going to pull this off using his output and his wrestling. And we're going to move on. All right, so this is the fight that has Twitter split. We've got Tabatha Ricci versus Gillian Robertson. Ricci 8-1-0. She's 28 years old, 5'1" at the 62-inch reach. And for her, let me see if I've got anything. I've got RVCA for Tabatha. And then Robertson 12-7-0. She's 28 as well. She's going to be 4 inches taller with a 1-inch reach advantage. Training out of Goat Shed. So this one was tough for me. My gut reaction was Gillian because I think she's a great grappler. I love backing her. I backed her at plus money against Piero Rodrigues. That was a beautiful cash. And I've never been terribly high on Tabatha Ricci. I've tried to fade her multiple times now with no success. But after starting to tape this fight, man, I'm tempted to bet on her. I'm tempted. The line's very close. Let me see what we're working with right now. Minus 124, money coming in on Robertson at plus 104. That's on Bet Online. You know, if the line comes down to like a pick'em, I'll probably play Tabatha just because I think she's got the better offensive grappling. She's got both styles, right? She can wrestle traditional, she can go for doubles, and she can also get throws, and her throws are very slick. So I do think she's going to have an offensive grappling edge. Robertson is also a good wrestler. I'm having a hard time seeing her really take down Ricci at like a high clip, whereas I think Ricci could take her down at a high clip. And then Robertson, she depends on her jiu-jitsu to get back up, to scramble, to get a submission. And Ricci, I mean, she's a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner herself. Not as many subs in MMA, and I think that in terms of just the jiu-jitsu translating into the MMA, I think Robertson has done it better. I mean, 9 submission wins is very impressive. But I think Ricci's going to have enough to kind of just cancel that out and be able to get top control. And in the striking, it's crazy for me to say, but I actually think Ricci might be a better striker here. Neither of them is a stud by any means on the feet. Both of them are grapplers first. But I think Ricci has been improving her striking a bit more than Robertson has. And I think the only problem is her reach, 61-inch reach. Got those T-Rex arms. It could be a little difficult for her to close the distance, and that's why she gets hit a lot. But Robertson doesn't really present a big striking threat. So yeah, I have to think Ricci's going to win. She's my pick, and if the line comes down a little bit more, I'm probably going to get a unit on her. I think she's got that offensive grappling edge. I don't think she's going to get submitted, and I believe it or not, I think she's the better striker here, which is really crazy for me to say, but I ran the tape, and that's what I'm seeing. I think Ricci's going to be a better striker, so we're going to move on. This should be a really good fight, and honestly, pretty high level for a random prelim fight on a relatively random card. Maybe not random. Jacksonville, pretty good one. But here we've got Mateusz Rebecki versus Loik Radzhabov. Rebecki, 17-1-0. He's 30 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. We're going to go with Berserker's team. Radzhabov, 17-4-1. He's 32, 2 years older. He's going to be 4 inches taller, have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's training out of Killcliff FC. So Radzhabov used to be fighting in the PFL. He lost to Raoush Manfield in the finals in 2021. And he really lost that just because of cardio. He tired out. But he was supposed to be on the Ultimate Fighter. Ended up getting kicked off because Connor brought in his boys. And then they gave him the short notice debut against Rafael Estevam. I played him there against Estevam. Was really happy with my bet. He did get outstruck on the feet for the most part. Not in the beginning of round 1, but after that, yeah. But the wrestling, he got 11 takedowns. I think he shot like 24 of them, something crazy like that. The one thing to note, when you see a guy getting so many takedowns, you have to wonder, like, why is he not getting more control time? 11 takedowns, but he only controlled them for 7 minutes. Maybe he doesn't have the best ground control. In PFL, he was pretty good on the ground once he got them down. And, I mean, his wrestling's very solid. You can't argue that. He beat, Chris Wade, who's a really good wrestler. He had a good fight with Natan Schultz, who's a really good grappler. And I just think overall he's fought the better guys, and he's shown really good wrestling against them. And Rebecki on the other side, so I only have a few questions with him now after the Fiore fight. I didn't like how much he got hit by Nick. I didn't like kind of how he ducked his head when he was going in and throwing combinations. he would duck his head forward, and a guy like Yoik Radzhabov, he's going to hurt him if he does that. I think that Rebecki is also a super, super good wrestler, very solid on the ground, and I don't know who's going to be the better wrestler here. I tend to think it's maybe Rebecki, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. And if it cancels out on the feet, again, it's going to be pretty close. Rebecki, he looks stronger. I like how he goes to the body, but after taping it, I kind of lean Yoik Radzhabov in the striking. I've taped this a few times now. The first time was when I saw Rebecki at plus 101. I felt like he should not be an underdog. And I felt the only reason he was an underdog was probably because of the Fiore fight. People thought he didn't look as good as he should have. Then Chase Hooper comes in there and massacres Nick Fiore. People do their MMA math. I got him as an underdog. But now Yoik's like plus 130 I'm seeing. I feel like that's probably the side if you're going to play a money line at this point. I think whoever's dog money, I think that's the side because this is going to be a really close fight. It's very difficult to tell who's got the better wrestling. And in the striking department, I think it's close. I think it's very close. Rebecki throws a little bit more loopy, whereas Yoik, he's throwing a little bit more straight, but it's a really good fight. I do have 2 units on Rebecki because I got him at plus 101 because I do think he might have the better wrestling, and I do think on the feet it's very close. But I'm considering hedging out just so it's a 1 unit play instead of a 2 unit play because I'm getting less confident the more I tape it. And I wouldn't be super shocked if Yoik maybe even knocked him out because I'm seeing some problems with that striking defense on the Rebecki side. So 2 units right now at plus 101 on him, but I'm probably going to hedge it down to a 1 unit stake. At this point, plus 130 on Yoik, I'd be more tempted on that. But for my pick, I'll stick with Rebecki. I'll stick with him to pull it off. Like I said, he's very strong in the wrestling. And I do think it's going to work. We have seen Yoik get taken down by good wrestlers. It takes a really good wrestler to get him down, but it can be done. So give me Rebecki here, but I wouldn't put too much on him, especially not as a favorite. My guy Prop in the chat, thanks for tuning in, brother. Looking forward to breaking down the card from a prop perspective on Thursday. But we'll move on now. We've got Randy Brown versus Wellington Turman. Brown, he's 16-5-0, 32 years old. 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. We're going to go with Budokan for him because I don't have something else. And then Turman, 18-6-0. He's 26. He's going to be 6 years younger, 3 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 6-inch reach disadvantage. I've got him currently training out of King Harbor MMA. Look, I like Randy Brown here. I think the line makes sense. It's pretty accurate. I think Randy Brown, I really like his striking. I think at range, it's him all day long. I think he uses his length really well. He's got a great output, really nice combinations, uses his jab really well. And at range, I think it's him all day here. Wellington Turman, he has been improving in the striking. I'll give him that. He's still young, and you can tell every fight he's improving a little bit more and more. He's great in the pocket, but at range, again, I don't really see what he could do to Randy Brown. He's going to have to constantly close the distance. And Brown can be dangerous up close, too. He's got those knees. He's got those elbows. And I just think he's going to be the much better striker. In terms of grappling, wrestling, I'll give the wrestling to Turman here. Do I think he's going to have a ton of success taking Brown down? Not really. And do I think he's going to control Brown? Also not really. I can see why people are interested in him at like the plus 200 range because he might have that wrestling upside. It might work here. And in the striking, I don't think he's going to look completely out of place. I think it's at range where he's going to look kind of out of place. So for me, Brown, he's a pretty good parlay piece. I'm considering it. My one concern is sometimes he just doesn't look as good as he should. But that said, I mean, he's fighting way better guys. I mean, a win over Chaos Williams, that's a fantastic win. So, yeah, give me Randy Brown here. We'll see how I play it. Probably parlay him, but we're going to have to see because I think Turman could be a live dog. I just feel like Brown has him kind of covered everywhere here. And we're going to move on. All right. Next up, we've got Neil Magny versus Philip Rowe. Magny, he's 27-10-0, 35 years old. 6'3", which I don't really think is accurate with an 80-inch reach. Training out of, let me see if I've got something else. I don't. Training out of Elevation. Rowe 10-3-0. He's going to be 3 years younger at 32. He's actually 6'3", and he's got an 80-inch reach as well. Training out of Fusion XL Performance. Look, I took Magny here at minus 145 for 1.45 units to win one. I know a lot of people are on Neil Magny here, and I understand why. I mean, I did it. I think the price is starting to run away a little bit, but look, he's got a very, 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 very clear wrestling edge here. Philip Rowe doesn't have great takedown defense. He's got a decent submission game, decent guillotine. Wouldn't be the craziest thing if he caught Magny in it, but the last two guys to submit Neil Magny are Gilbert Burns and Shavkat Rakhmonov. So I don't really expect that from Rowe. On the feet, I mean, I like Rowe a lot better. I think on the feet, he's going to be the better striker. He uses his range really well. He's very deadly, hits super hard. He's a bit hittable himself, so I do think Magny will have success. He's got a similar range, similar reach, I mean. And he's not terrible at range. He's a pretty good striker, but I would just call him serviceable, whereas I would actually call Rowe a pretty good striker. That said, though, I think the grappling edge is a bit too wide. And as long as Magny uses it, as long as he wrestles here, I think he should run away with this and probably look like a minus 200. Can he get bonked or maybe club and subbed? Yeah, that's a concern of mine. He's a bit too hittable for my taste. And like I said, Rowe is very dangerous. He does hit super hard. But, I mean, he got taken down by Kosi twice. He got taken down by Gabe Green. Pretty sure Nico got him down one time. I just think Magny's got the wrestling to win this fight relatively comfortably. He just has to keep it off the feet, because on the feet, I think he's in danger. But the second he brings it to the ground, I think he's got this. So Neil Magny is the pick, and we're going to move on. We're moving super quick today, and it's not on purpose, but by myself, guess that's why. So we're going to move on to this fight. We've got Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva. Allen, he's 21, 5-0, 27 years old. 6'2" with the 75-inch reach, training out of Sanford MMA, Killcliff. Silva on the other side, he's 23, 8-0. He's 33. It's going to be 2 inches shorter, 1 inch reach disadvantage for him. And let me see what I've got for him. I don't have a camp for him, so we're going to go with Evolutio Thai MMA. Look, so I've always been high on Brendan Allen. He's failed me a few times, but for the most part, he's done me good. I did back Muniz against him, and I'll be honest, Brendan Allen shocked me there. I thought Muniz would have him outclassed on the ground, and he didn't. And it was Allen who submitted Muniz, which is super impressive. I personally think that the grappling edge here is just way too wide. And I do think Brendan Allen submits Silva. Allen has, I think, let me tell you, he's got 12 submission wins. Silva's been submitted 6 times. When he made his debut against Wellington Turman took his back against the fence. He didn't fully get him down. He kind of dragged him down, and then once Silva stood back up, he took his back. If Brendan Allen gets his back, it's clipped. And then in the Andrew Sanchez fight, what happened there? He got taken down 7 times, controlled almost the entire time for the full 2 rounds. And then once Sanchez slowed down, as he always does, Silva bonked him. Can Brendan Allen get knocked out here? Absolutely. Sometimes he decides to stand and trade with guys he should not be standing and trading with. That's how he lost to Strickland. That's how he got knocked out by Chris Curtis. That's how he could have gotten knocked out in the Soriano fight. I mean, it was good to see him strike against a striker and look pretty good, but the whole time you're holding your breath that he's going to get bonked, because we've seen him get knocked out. He is very hittable, 46% striking defense. And I mean, you look at Silva, he's a very solid striker, and he hits like a train. Big power, 20 knockout wins, 20 of them. I mean, the guy's no joke. And if Allen doesn't use that wrestling, I think he'll be in trouble. That said, I do think he uses his wrestling, and I do think he submits Bruno Silva. So I'll be looking out for the sub prop. It's plus 160 on Bet Online. I would like something a little bit better. I'm a little greedy, so I'm going to wait and see what FanDuel and Bet Rivers give me. Hopefully it's better. It might not be. We'll see. I'll probably put a half unit on it, and he'll probably be a parlay piece for me. I don't want to lay, what is he now? Minus 180. I don't want to put 2 units on him, so I'll probably just parlay him with one of the people on my list. So far from the people we've talked about, I've got Emmers as a possible parlay piece. Brown is a possible parlay piece. and then Allen, and then we're going to talk about the rest in a few moments. But yeah, I think Allen's got a huge grappling edge. He cannot stand. It's a bad idea. Can he keep up in the striking? Probably. His striking has improved a lot, and he's a pretty good striker. But he'll probably get knocked out. And I think he's going to be smart enough to know that. He's out of a good camp. And I'm hoping that he's going to wrestle and grapple. And if he does, I think that sub will be there. So I'll be playing the sub prop, and I'll probably have him parlayed up for a total stake of 1 unit. No more than that, because I am nervous about that bunk. And we're going to move on. This is such a great fight. I was so excited when I saw this fight. I think it's a great one. The line has been all over the place, but it's going to be a really good fight. We've got David Onama versus Gabriel Santos. Onama 10-2-0. He's 29 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. He used to train at Glory MMA. We know that gym no longer exists. I can't tell you where he trains now. I couldn't personally tell from Instagram, but it didn't seem like he's training in any big gyms. Santos on the other side, he's 10-1-0, 26. He's 3 years younger. Going to be 2 inches shorter and have a, 2.5-inch reach disadvantage. And let me see what I've got for him. He's at Atus Jiu-Jitsu. That's what I got from Instagram. So Gabriel Santos, if you guys don't remember, he fought Lerone Murphy not too long ago on short notice as a pretty big underdog. And I had 3 units on Lerone Murphy there. And man, Santos won that fight. I remember once the fight ended, I was like, all right, Murphy lost this one. And he got the decision, but I think he got gifted. And I mean, Santos looked fantastic on short notice against a high-level opponent in Lerone Murphy. The striking looked great. The wrestling looked even better. It's not easy to wrestle Murphy, and he made it look relatively simple. I loved everything I saw from Santos in that fight. Maybe a bit too hittable, but Lerone Murphy's a fantastic striker. So you can't really take too much away from Santos for that. Now, the Jose Delano fight, another great fight. Delano, a very solid prospect. And I personally thought Delano had him there. And I backed him, I think, at like minus 200 or so, which was a terrible bet. And Santos came out there, and I think he knocked him out in the 4th round. But he's got the cardio. He's got the striking. And he's a great wrestler as well. Now, Onama, I feel like he's been kind of a disappointment, but I mean, the guy's also super talented. He's also been improving. I mean, he hits like an absolute train, almost knocked out Nate Landwehr. And then, who was it that he knocked out? Benitez knocked him out. And then Armfield, I actually wanted to talk about that one. So the Garrett Armfield fight, Armfield was on short notice. It was actually a rematch. I think they fought in amateurs back in the day. Onama won that one as well. And then they fought, and I didn't remember this off of memory. This is why you got to do some tape at least. And in the first round, he got wobbled by Garrett Armfield. He got wobbled on the feet by him. And Armfield is much smaller. He's a bantamweight. He was just coming up in weight because it was short notice. But that was clean. And, I mean, he didn't get, like, knocked down or anything, but he got wobbled. A guy like Santos, he's going to be a much better striker than Garrett Armfield. And I mean, Nate Landwehr, once he got through that adversity after he got knocked down, I mean, he brought on the pressure. He used some wrestling, and he was able to get Onama out of there late, right? It was, no, he didn't. Why did I think he subbed him? Getting my fighters mixed up, but lost that decision. It cost Krause, I think, what was like $3 million or something insane. But yeah, I think that Onama can be taken down, even though he's also got pretty good wrestling. I don't see him taking down Santos. I don't see him controlling or submitting Santos. I think Santos has him covered in the grappling department pretty much all around, both offensively and in the jiu-jitsu. And then in terms of the striking, again, Onama, super dangerous, and he's got the technique. He's a good striker, but he can get a little wild, whereas Gabriel Santos, I think he's a little cleaner, a little crisper. And I just think he's going to land better and land more. So I'm very tempted to parlay him. It's kind of hard to bet against Onama with like paying minus 240 because Onama, he's not bad at all. He's also a pretty good prospect. I don't think he's a bum, and I don't think he's going anywhere. There's no shame in losing to Nate Landwehr. The Mason Jones fight, he was on short notice there coming up a weight class, and he turned Mason Jones into a wrestler. So I would not count him out. But I just think technique for technique, I think Santos has him covered. I think minus 240 is relatively accurate. He opened up at plus 235. I mean, if I saw that, I would have been all over it. Anybody who got plus money on Santos, fantastic job. Now at minus 240, I mean, it's still decent. I really do think he wins. So we'll see. He might be another possible parlay piece. I do feel better about him than I do about like Emmers or Brown. I'm a little nervous about those two. I feel a little bit better about Santos and Allen, so maybe that's going to be a parlay, maybe for a half unit. I'll see. Make sure you're following me at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter. That's where I'm going to post all my bets. It's up on my Bet MMA as well. For now, I don't have any parlays up. I've only got a few money lines. I already spoke about one of them, Rebecki, but we're going to hedge that down to 1 unit. Got that half unit on Kleydson, the 1 unit on Brundage at minus 120. And then Magny minus 145. Those are the only money lines I have so far. But I do think Santos will be added to the slate in some shape or form. And we're going to move on. Next up, we've got Justin Tafa versus Austen Lane. Tafa, he's 6'3" 29 years old. 6 feet tall with a 74-inch reach. And I honestly don't know where he trains. I don't know the gym name. Lane, 12'3". He's 35. He's going to be 6 years older. 6'6", so he's going to be 6 inches taller, have a 6-inch reach advantage with an 80-inch reach, and we're going to go with Bulldog boxing for him. This is a fight that I want nothing to do with. I want nothing to do with this fight at all. When I first saw it, I was thinking, all right, I'm going to go with Tafa by knockout. It was plus 100 or something. And Austen Lane, he has been knocked out. I forget who it was. It was a terrible look. Vernon Lewis in 2020. But it's worth noting, I mean, that Vernon Lewis knockout, right? That was the last one in 2020. That came via ground and pound. It's not like Lewis knocked him out on the feet clean. It was ground and pound. And Tafa doesn't wrestle. I'm kind of having a hard time seeing how Tafa will handle the size of Lane. I think that Lane, he does strike well at range, and when he does throw, I actually really like it. He throws down the pipe 1-2. But he doesn't throw much. The output isn't quite there. And he does look very hittable. I will say that. On the feet, he looks pretty damn hittable. And he does have a tendency to back up sometimes. So I do think that Tafa can back him up against the fence and eventually knock him out. I do think Tafa wins, and I do still think he wins by knockout. But the more I looked at this fight, the more I wanted nothing to do with it. We worked too hard for our money to put it down on a fight like this. I think it's just a total pass because, look, we've seen Tafa get outworked. Vandera, Carlos Felipe, they both beat him, but that was via output, right? Austen Lane, he doesn't have that output. He's very different from those two. So I don't really think he's going to be able to bring it to Tafa and really just overwhelm him with output and win the fight that way like those two did. Tafa did get knocked out by De Castro. That was in 2019, but can Lane knock him out? I mean, he's got 11 knockout wins. He's ginormous, and he's not a bad striker by any means. I think that a good path for Lane would be his wrestling. He's not some wrestling stud, and he doesn't do it often at all. But when he does do it, it's actually pretty good. And we haven't really seen Tafa off his back yet. We don't really know what that's going to look like. He has 100% takedown defense, but that's off of 2 takedowns. He defended one against Carlos Felipe, and he defended one against Harry Hunsucker before bonking him. So what's he going to look like on his back if Lane does get him down? We don't know. So I personally don't want anything to do with it. I would not be shocked if Austen Lane pulled this off. If he does wrestle, I think he's very live, and I do think he could pull it off. I'm curious what his knockout prop is, because I bet people are counting him out completely. Plus 300. Yeah. I think the most likely outcome is Justin Tafa by knockout, probably around round 2. That's what I'm thinking. But my advice, don't bet on this fight. Just watch it. And that way, if Austen Lane decides to wrestle for 3 rounds, you don't have a freaking heart attack and break your TV. So let's fight goes to decision. That could be fun. Plus 300. My set gas might sprinkle that. I mean, look, I'm telling you guys, Lane can wrestle. And if he does, the fight very well might get extended. So we'll see. But like I said, also, Lane doesn't do it often, even though he has done it. So I wouldn't bank on it. Justin Tafa by knockout will be the pick. But again, just don't put your money on it. All right, another fight that's got Twitter split up quite a bit. We've got Amanda Ribas versus Macy Barber. Ribas, she's 11-3-0, 29 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach, trading out of Ribas family. I think that 5'3" is incorrect. She's around, I would guess around 5'5". She's not that small. Just measure her against her opponents. Macy Barber on the other side, 12-2-0. She's going to be 4 years younger at 25, 5'5", which I think is around the same size as Ribas. And she's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. I don't have a camp for her, so we're going to go with Fort Collins MMA. And yeah, I like Ribas here. I do. I think technique-wise, she's got Macy completely covered. Her striking has come a long way, and it looks great. I really like how she's been looking on the feet in her last fight against Araujo. Looked fantastic on the feet. And if she does that here, I think she's going to look great. I think she's going to have an offensive wrestling edge here. I think she's got the better takedowns, the better grappling. Barber, better against the fence. She's a very physical woman, whereas Ribas seems a little thinner, a little lankier. So maybe Barber can hold her up against the fence, but I don't see her having too much success there. Ribas, 88% takedown defense. If anyone's getting the takedowns, it's going to be her, and I do think she is going to get those takedowns. I think personally she's got Barber covered here. And the only way I see her losing is if Barber finds a lot of success holding her up against the fence, and then maybe Ribas isn't having as much success on the feet as you might think. Because Barber's not a terrible striker. She does throw a bit too loopy for me, but you can see the power there. I just think that Ribas is going to hit the target faster, more often, and just do more damage over 15 minutes, and also have that grappling edge here. So I've got to go with Ribas. Her price right now, let's see what we got, -200. I mean, it's a lot in women's MMA. You never want to really lay that kind of chalk, but like I said, I really think she's got Barber covered. She's another possible parlay piece for me. Whether I really want to parlay her at -200, I'm not sure, but she's on my list. She's on my list. We'll see. Again, at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter, but she's definitely going to be my pick. I think she's going to win. I think she wins by decision. I consider her decision prop at -125, but the last thing I need is then her getting Barber down and submitting her, because Ribas does have good jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, give me Ribas right now, no play, but possible parlay piece for me. I'll go over I've got 6 possible parlay pieces. I'll go over them at the end and give you kind of an indication of my confidence level in them, because if you've been watching my stuff recently, I almost have not been parlaying at all. I've been on a lot of underdogs. Knock on wood, been working out pretty okay for me, but this card, I might go back to my parlaying ways. We'll see. But for now, we're going to move on to our main event. Ribas is the pick. All right. For the main event, we've got Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. Emmett, 18-3-0. He's 38 years old. 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. Team alpha male for him. Topuria, he's 13-0, undefeated. 26, he's going to be, let me math real quick, 12 years younger. He's 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. He's actually out of Sanford MMA now, Killcliff FC. And look, I think Topuria should win this. I'm a huge Topuria fan. I really hope he wins this so he can continue his career and hopefully fight for that strap soon. But I mean, I've got some hesitations betting him at -310. So look, first things first, the grappling, easily Topuria. I think he's got a very big wrestling edge here. Emmett is actually pretty credentialed in the wrestling, but he's similar to Justin Gaethje, where he just doesn't do it. And I don't see him taking down Topuria. I think his takedown defense is like 93%, something like that. And I just think that Topuria is going to have the much better grappling if he chooses to wrestle, which I really, really hope he does. I think he's going to have that edge. And can he submit Emmett? I'm having a hard time playing it out in my head, but I didn't think he'd submit Mitchell either, so it's not impossible. And his sub prop reflects that. I think I saw it at like +125, which I don't think is playable. Now, the striking. So Topuria is a fantastic striker. Very technical, hits super hard, goes to the body, nasty, and then he makes, like, the combos are so good. He'll go to the body, then come back upstairs when you're not expecting it. Such a good striker. Here's the problem. I think he's a bit too hittable, and he does this thing, right? Kind of reminds me of Kamaru Usman in that he'll be striking and he'll just start winging the strikes and kind of ducking his head. And that's why I bet Leon Edwards in that first Usman fight. I didn't expect it to play out like that, but what I saw was Usman ducking his head a lot when he was throwing strikes, and that's kind of what I see with Topuria here. I see him ducking his head a lot. We've seen him almost get knocked out by Jai Herbert. I hated that. It was not fun to watch. I didn't even want him to be at lightweight to begin with. Again, I'm a Topuria fan, so I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? Thankfully, he didn't get knocked out. He got his own KO, but I mean, he's fighting one of the hardest hitters in the featherweight division easily. Probably one of the hardest hitters pound for pound in the UFC. I mean, the guy hits like a damn train. And the thing with Emmett is he's not like a lot of these guys who hit really hard but have no output. He hits really hard, but he's got a great output. By no means did I think he beat Calvin Kattar. I was there live. I've rewatched it. I don't think he won that fight, but to even make it close against a guy like Calvin Kattar, it's impressive. The Shane Burgos fight, I believe that was this one. I mean, that was a great performance. Shane Burgos is a good striker, but he outstruck him there, and he hurt him a lot. And then in the Dan Ige fight, maybe not as dominant as I expected him to be, but Dan Ige is really good too. So I think he's fought the better guys. I don't really think there's too much question to that. And I just think he's very live for a bonk here. I want to parlay Ilia. I do. Again, huge fan, and I think he's going to win this one, but I'm having hesitations at minus 310. I'll be completely honest. I do think he's got the wrestling edge here, and if he uses it, he's good to go. Can he hang in the striking and find his own success? Sure, but I don't think it's the move. I really don't, and I would not be completely shocked if my guy Topuria got knocked out. So right now, the only thing I have on the fight is Emmett by knockout at plus 425. I put a quarter unit on it. I think it's a very likely outcome. I don't think it's the most likely outcome, but I think it's entirely possible. And people are completely counting him out because he's 38. But guys, he hits really hard. He does have that output. He hasn't really looked that bad. I mean, I think people are just looking at the Rodrigues fight, and now all of a sudden he's this old aging bum. But he's had close fights with Calvin Kattar again. We just went over it. He's had good fights, and it wasn't years ago. It was relatively recent. So I don't think it's smart to count him out. All that said, again, I do think Topuria wins. Younger guy, rapidly improving, tremendous ground game, really slick submissions, fantastic wrestling, and striking to boot. Mixes it up to the body. I think he's got it all. My main concern, like I said, is run the tape if you don't remember this. Check it out. In even the Mitchell fight, I was getting nervous because he was doing this. He'll do his combinations and then he'll swing over and he'll duck his head down. And that's going to give Emmett a really big opportunity. And it's going to happen more than once. And he's going to have 5 rounds to do it. And he's shown that he could do it later in fights. So Ilia Topuria is my pick. He's another parlay piece that I am considering. Maybe that KO prop could act as a kind of hedge, because I don't think Emmett wins a decision here. I think if he wins, he has to knock out Topuria. But yeah, minus 310. I'm hesitant. I might get there for a unit total stake, nothing more than that. But I can't blame anyone playing that KO prop like I did, because if you're seeing what I'm seeing, you understand what I'm saying. Because I know a lot of people love Topuria. They don't want to even hear this. They're all saying he's going to run through Emmett. I think he wins. I think he finishes Emmett, but I don't think Emmett should be counted out, and I don't think people should put too much money on Topuria, because, again, watch that head duck. Watch the way he kind of ducks his head in when he's swinging. It's not good. So Topuria is going to be the pick. In terms of a play right now, I just have that quarter unit sprinkle on the knockout for Emmett at plus 425. So that's it, guys. That's a card. That's 14 fights. Real quick, I'm going to recap my plays right now. I'll recap my parlay pieces and talk about how confident I am in them. Again, I don't have a single parlay yet, not one, and I'm going to be posting them as I play them on my Twitter page. I've considered maybe a round robin with the people I like for the parlays, but I don't know. Some of these people, I just don't know if I want to play them as a favorite. So first with the bets that I do have. Neil Magny, minus 145, 1.45 units. Kleydson Rodrigues, plus 280, half a unit. Cody Brundage, minus 120, 1 unit. And then I have Rebecki at plus 101 for 2 units, but I'm going to hedge that down to a 1 unit stake because I'm not as confident as I was originally. And then I do have that Emmett KO prop that I was just talking about. In terms of parlay pieces, we've got 6 possible ones. Emmers is the first one. Confidence there. Let's call it 7 out of 10. Maybe 6.5 out of 10. Jenkins is a tough dude, but yeah, Emmers has got that one. I just don't know if I'm going to get to that. Rebos, 7 out of 10 confidence there. I might get to her. I feel, let's call it 7.5 because I'm more confident in her than I am with Emmers. I think she's got a very significant grappling edge against Macy, and if she uses that, she's got this. So she might get to a parlay. I want to parlay Randy Brown. My brain is saying I should, but at the same time, I don't want to doubt Turman. I feel like he's been improving. So let's call the confidence level there also 7 out of 10. Santos, I'm gonna say 8 out of 10. And I do like him, and I will probably parlay him. And then Allen, let's call it 8 out of 10 as well. Maybe even 8.5. I really like him there. I need him not to stand. And he's shown that sometimes he's gonna stand even though he shouldn't. So I'd be even more confident if I knew that for sure he was going to wrestle. And then Topuria, let's also call it 8.5. I think he wins this a lot, but I just think I'm just concerned about that one knockout possibility. But yeah, if I do parlay, it's looking like it's going to be Topuria, Santos, and Rebus that I play around with. I don't do 3 people parlays really unless it's like some crazy chalk for Bellator or PFL. So I'm not going to be putting those 3 together. I might do a little mix, like a round robin, which would look like a half unit parlay, Rebus, Topuria, half unit parlay, Rebus, Santos, and then half unit parlay, Santos, Topuria. That's what that round robin would look like. Maybe I'll get to something like that, but we're going to have to see. Again, at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter. That's where you're going to find my bets when I make them. There's a link to my Bet MMA as well. Everything is placed there the second I play it. And yeah. Make sure you guys subscribe if you like my stuff. Thank you all for tuning in. 16 live viewers with other shows going on and The Ultimate Fighter playing. I think it's probably over by now, but thank you guys all for tuning in. I appreciate you big time. This is why we do this. And next week, I'll have a guest once again. We'll be going back to guests for a little bit. And yeah, thank you guys all for tuning in. I'm hoping to put out a PFL video, but I say this every week, and I'm preparing for the bar right now. If you're not from America, it's just this law test you have to take after law school. And because of that, I don't have a tremendous amount of time, but I really, really want to get back to the regional content grind. So I'm going to do my very best to put out a PFL video. But for now, this is it. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and good luck with any of your bets this weekend.